Hi, morning and welcome back to the Outperforming the Environment series. This is the second show that we're doing, and just to introduce the concept so that you know what we're talking about, it's all about understanding that by controlling your internal environment, you are able to influence your external environment, and by doing that we will naturally become more strategic and more responsive to the things that the environment throws at us, as opposed to becoming reactive to it and becoming a product of the environment. So this is all about outperforming the environment. My name is Brendan Palmer, and I've got my friend here, Simon Berry, and this is what we do. And we're going to be continuing to share these TV series, we're calling them, of short clips where we discuss very pertinent issues that will help you to achieve more out of life by understanding some basic but very, very important concepts. Okay, so I'll hand over to you there on that, Simon.
Yes, hello, Brendan. I think we need to start by recapping some of the things that we discussed in the last show. Just for some of the people who are viewing this for the first time.
So just to give us, or to give you an understanding of what we're talking about when we say outperforming the environment, it's understanding that there's two parts to the environment. There's our internal environment and our external environment. The only thing that we can control is the internal environment. So that's our attitude, our feelings, our belief systems, the way that we look at life, the way that we look at things. And then there's the external environment, which is exactly the same, except it's other people's views on all of those things. So what we've created this show for is to share this information and to understand that if you sort your internal environment out, you are then able to get the most out of your external environment. And you know, the end result is that you outperform the environment rather than being a product of the environment. And that's what it's all about. It's about getting the most out of life, because we are part of the external environment. We are part of it. We're on this earth together with nature, with everything. But the idea is that we need to learn how it works. If we are going to be successful in business, if we're going to be successful in life, if we're going to enjoy the good things that we are supposed to be enjoying. So that's basically what it's about. Then today what we're going to be talking about is what leads to the results that we produce. Okay, so on that note then, Simon, if you can just share with us.
Yes, basically I think from a performance point of view, outstanding the environment, like what Brandon has said, is about how you make sure that you look at your inside, your mental environment, and also you make sure that you become very strategic in using all the resources that you have, especially the mental resources, to be able to create the kind of results that you want, that are not dependent on the environment, but they are more dependent on how you are thinking, and also looking at your internal resources. And we are talking about here sharing very, very high level strategic concepts that are widely applicable. We are talking about this because they will affect anybody in any particular result that you want to produce. It can be in business, it can be somebody who is studying at a university or at a high school, and he wants to produce extraordinary, outstanding results. You can actually use the same principles to create that kind of result that make you outperform the environment. Because if you are looking at even in a school environment, you are giving challenges, things that require you to do things beyond the ordinary for you to become an extraordinary performer in that particular environment or in that particular situation. So again, this is very critical, because people may start thinking like we're talking about things that are the pie in the sky. They don't really work, and how do they work? Where they really work. And these are what we call the ultimate distinctions, because they're strategic. You can apply them in different areas. The same things, same tools, same strategies, same concepts. You can apply them in business, leadership, school, whatever. But very, very basic. So here we are talking about how you create what contributes to the results that we create. Now, this is a very interesting area, because if you look at an environment where, for example, the economy is not performing the way people expect it to perform, there is a tendency to focus on two main items. First of all, we are wired as human beings to attribute most of our results that we don't want to the environment. So whenever something that we don't want has happened, we tend to think, it was the environment, it was somebody, it was not me. So we put ourselves out of the equation of the process of creating our own results, whether they're financial, business, relationship, whatever. Then there's also another extreme where some people will tend to attribute every good result that they produce to some, magic or environment. They don't see how they have contributed to creating that kind of result. So in both cases, you are looking at the both extremes of where a person has lost control at a mental level of the capacity to influence the results that they want. So eventually, you say that somebody is doing well, he's blaming, he's saying it's not me, it's all about luck, environment. He's not looking at how he is contributing through his process of thinking, strategy, and other things we're going to discuss about. Then we also have another area where lost control is lost completely, where a person is saying everything that is happening, the results that I'm getting, especially if they are poor, we are saying it's all about the environment. It's all about somebody else. It's all about some other external things not working. But what we are saying, Brandon, is the truth is there are two critical components that contribute to every result that we produce. The first result is yourself, it's myself. And then the second is the environment in which we are undertaking those particular activities. So it's like the dynamic interaction between me and the environment in which I'm actually playing the game. So if you take football, for example, how you are going to perform is going to be determined by yourself, but also in maybe the dynamics, the football pitch, the environment. You are looking at the other players, how the other players are playing with you, also the weather. So it's a dynamic interaction. So we need to understand this, that whatever results we are producing in any given environment, it's not just about the environment, it's a dynamic relationship. What we are thinking, how we are thinking, and how our perceptions, like you have talked about, the filtering, how are we filtering the information that is coming, the processing of the information, what is it, does it mean to us? And then we are responding or reacting to the environment. And that is what creates the environment, the results that we produce.
That's it exactly. Like, I like the way you said that when we achieve bad results, it's always because of the environment. It's somebody else's fault. It was nothing to do with us or the way that we were thinking. And this is a very, very big problem in society today, the world over, where people constantly are blaming everyone else for their situations when they're bad. Yes. When they're good, the flip side is when they're good, it's because they are these brilliant, people.
Yes.
And this is what we need to understand, is that both of those extremes are, none of them are incorrect. Yes. They're both correct to an extent, but what we must understand if we are going to outperform our environment is that we are the drivers. We control the way that we perceive our environment to be. We need to be the ones that are in control of the actions that we take. No one can make you do something that you have not chosen to do.
Exactly.
So before you come up with an opinion, before you think that it's somebody else's fault, never ever point fingers. That's a rule that everyone should adopt.
Exactly.
Because if the moment you point fingers, you lose all credibility as a leader.
Yeah.
Now, if we're going to outperform our environment, we have to be leaders.
Yes.
So we need to focus on ourselves, focus on the way that we respond to the environment, to whatever the environment gives us. And if we are able, once we are able to do that, then we are able to outperform our environment and avoid becoming a product of our environment. Because this is the problem. People that do not think enough become a product of the environment. They're like, times are tough. When you read the headlines in the newspapers of businesses closing down, or of interest rates increasing, of poverty, and of all the negative side of it, it instantly becomes an external environmental issue.
Yes.
Whereas once we've got the outperforming the environment concept, the idea, the belief that it works, is that you take that situation and you adapt it and you adapt to it so that you're able to take advantage of it.
Sure.
So I think, on that note, that pretty much covers what we were talking about today, is how do we get the results that we want from our environment. So if you can just give us a summary.
So a summary is, we talked about the two predominant patterns of thinking in the society about how we produce our results. Some of the things we're talking about, Brandon, here is we are talking about some of the things that are based on personal experiences. How do you produce brilliant results? We cannot give specific details, but we are trying to talk about some things that we've actually done in specific areas of life, where we've actually produced results beyond what people would think we could produce. And this is not to blow our trumpets, but we're now sharing some of the things that can help others. So there are 6 key things that are critical. The first thing is you. You're looking at your mind. We talk about the inner game. How do you make sure that you remain focused, you remain controlled, you remain strategic in terms of approaching whatever goal you want so that you can achieve your results? And then you are looking at the environment. How do you understand the environment? We are going to discuss a lot more, especially when we discuss about what is the economic environment, because clarity of understanding is very critical. Even in business, if a leader does not have clarity of understanding and intelligently assessing and questioning everything that is coming from the media, from the news, and having clarity in terms of terms, what do they really mean? And having also being very strategic and intelligent in terms of getting evidence from the ground, so that the person can have sufficient intelligence on which to make sound decisions, because it's critical. Then the next one is the strategy thing. Because once it's you and me, and we understand the environment and we know the results that we want to produce, the critical biggest killer of results is the strategy area. Most people are not interested in trying to really get into the idea of strategy and understanding what is strategy. But I tell you, Brandon, the critical thing, once you have got enough intelligence about the environment, strategy becomes the key. Strategy can either make you go this way or that way. So we are talking about strategy because strategy is the bridge between your intentions and your results. So
can I give you a quote on strategy, because it's very similar to planning. Strategy is a plan. It's a long-term plan.
Yes.
And there's a great quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Yes.
That says, "The man without a plan is at the mercy of the man with a plan."
Yes.
So if you don't have a plan, you are sentencing yourself to be a product of your environment.
Exactly. So the idea of strategy, of trying to understand what is strategy, what is a strategic response, what is not strategic, because one of the things that I find in leadership, if you are not clear, especially if you're running an organization, you're not clear what is strategic in your organization, in your operations, and what is tactical, it's a very big problem. And you find that most of the leaders, they end up descending into the tactical area and forgetting the strategy, because they have no clarity, they don't have a dashboard of knowing exactly what are the strategic issues in the organization, so that you focus on the right strategic issues and respond strategically to situations. So there's also a difference between a tactical response and a strategic response. Most of the time the problem is when the environment changes, there's a lot of disorientation that can happen. This is where now you have to be strategic. Remain calm and focused and maintain your clarity in terms of thinking. Don't rush into reacting. You have to respond.
The problem is that most directors who are supposed to be steering the ship, which is their business, become firefighters. They become tactical firefighters because they're creating fires everywhere for themselves to put out by not doing their job, which is to direct and think strategically.
Yes, and also the idea of strategic time, because most of the people, when they start talking about strategy and when things are tough, most people we are preconditioned to think that we must be on the battleground, on the battlefield. We forget about giving ourselves enough latitude in terms of time, so that we really think through things and come up with robust strategies to respond to the situations. So you find that sometimes you can be drawn into the battlefield when they are busy firefighting, like what you have said. But you are the leader, where you should be very strategic at this moment when the things are tough. That's where you need to be more strategic. But we are drawn into the idea of being very, very tactical. And we may not even know that now we've resorted to tactical responses. And that's a dangerous thing for leadership. So it's very, very important for us to understand the issue of strategy is key. Then the next one is decisions. Decision making is critical. And what I notice, Brendan, is outperforming the environment requires a lot of intelligent decision making. And intelligent decision making requires you to be in control of your mind, so that you are clear, you are not distracted by a lot of the other things, and you don't decide. Most of the time we end up deciding on opinions, on some beliefs, which are actually planted by the news, by the media, by so forth. So we end up making a lot of flawed decisions, especially in times when things are where we need to outperform. We need to make sure that we are in a very strong powerful position of decision making. We can be distracted mentally and we start making wrong decisions. It's easy to make blunders and wrong decisions in tough times than when the situation is okay. So this is a kind of an antithesis in terms of looking at decision making. So it's critical that leaders have got tools and strategies to make sure that they make the right decisions. Then the next one is obviously the actions and the activities. That's also contribute to our results. What actions are we doing? How are we doing it? Then it comes into the area of peak performance. When you talk about peak performance, again, it's your inner game. How do you make sure that you program yourself to be able to produce at your highest peak performance level? We're talking about game excellence. These are some of the things we're talking about, skill strategies. Focus, like I know every day you have got your way of getting into state and programming yourself, making sure that you remove distractors, so that by the end of the day you are focused on what you want to achieve. These are some of the things we're talking about, making sure that your inner game is up to scratch. Because if you don't have enough good inner game, you don't have the right skills at the right level to perform, then whatever you are going to do with the float, you can end up having bad results or mediocre results. And then the last one is resourcefulness. Resourcefulness is different from having resources. Now, if you find, like in our situation at the moment in Zimbabwe, where we are saying there's not enough resources, financial resources. You see, the whole thing is not just about having resources, it's about resourcefulness. Saying whatever resources you have, how are you using them? How can you use your resources in a better way? So this is also another critical area where we try to go and propose to someone that, you can create better results even with the resources that you have right now. Most people really can't understand it. They think, no, for us to produce more, we always need more financial resources. We need more of this. But the idea of being resourcefulness, it comes from leverage. We're looking at the things like how can you leverage on the resource that you have. And it's all about innovation. It's not all about being dynamic. It's using the mental game and also looking at strategies. So some of the organizations that are existing now, they can actually produce even bigger results. Not necessarily with more resources, but by just looking at the resources they have and changing the configuration of how they are using their resources. They can actually begin to even move out of the situation in which they are and outperforming the environment.
Exactly. Yeah. And it begins, that moving out of the current environment, if it's a undesirable environment, begins with the right attitude. Exactly. Begins with that which is yes-dar.
Yes.
Y-E-S-D-A-R.
Yes.
Now, if that can be understood, and if you can take those concepts and understand that by using the resources available to you right now, and by becoming more efficient, and by thinking outside of the box, by thinking outside of your current environment, you will get yourself outside of your current environment. So this idea of businesses closing down here, there and everywhere in our economy right now in Zimbabwe is a direct result of a thinking problem in this environment, because people are becoming a product of the environment because they've become lazy. They've become lazy. And they're standing back and allowing things to happen to them instead of understanding how simple it is to become, to control your internal environment and then therefore influence the external environment and make the most of the situation, because the situation is what it is. It's not going to change. This idea of constantly wishing for things to go back to the way they used to be when the economy was booming, it's not going to happen with the same way of thinking. The way that will happen in the future is by changing the way of thinking, by creating the environment that is conducive for economic boom. And that is only achieved through controlling and changing the internal environment, and that is then when you'll be able to outperform the environment and create the environment that you want, where everyone is enjoying an abundance of everything.
Precisely.
So that is how you get the results that you want out of life, out of business. It's by changing your internal environment, and it's by understanding that you are the cause, you are the effect, and if you take what you've already got, you can make it into much more than you currently are by thinking about it.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much for watching, and next week we'll cover something else extremely interesting. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thanks.